Hello well-wishers, I welcome you all to my YouTube channel Aspiring Minds. Now the topic that I have selected for today's video is war poetry. Now you must be wondering why so. In the ICSE syllabus for class 9 specially, there is a poem by Vikram Seth which we will be doing in details in the next video, but I thought it would be important for me to discuss this dimension of the background reading of the poem, which will help you to understand the concept better. Now you must be wondering, what is war poetry? It is actually a genre of literature and it focuses on the experiences, emotions and the consequences of war. It includes the various poems which are written by the soldiers, the civilians, their personal experiences, how the war impacted these individuals, humanity and society as a whole. War poetry explores themes like the brutality of war, the horrors of war, the loss of life and so on. We will be going through it in details as a just an overview for you to understand the war poetry and how it is related to World War I that happened as a real life incident years ago. Now some of the common themes which were explored by the poets in the war poems specifically include the brutality or the cruelty of war, the loss of innocent lives. That means that it is not just the soldiers who lose their lives, but even the common man, the young civilians tend to lose their lives. It also talks about patriotism, that is the sentiments associated with one's nation, which brings me to yet another theme that they explore, that is nationalism, the futility or the uselessness of war, and the personal experiences of soldiers are also recorded in these war poems. Some of the important poets that we often associate with war poetry include Siegfried, Sassoon and Wilfred, Owen. Now that we know who are some of the important war poets, we should also have a look at some of the famous war poems, which include my favorite, Dulce et Decorum est. I remember studying it as a part of my ICSE syllabus in class 12. It is written by Wilfred Owen and it also talks about the cruelty, the harshness of war. We also have one of the most mentioned poems, The Charge of the Light Brigade, written by the famous poet Alfred Tennyson, and Suicide in the Trenches by Siegfried Sassoon. There are other poems, but these three I thought would be important for our reading of the famous war poems. Just to give you a very quick idea about what exactly is war poetry and how is the theme that I was talking about some time back, how are these themes dealt with by poets, I would like to just give you a very brief overview of The Charge of the Light Brigade, written by Alfred Tennyson. This poem specifically includes topics like bravery and heroism in the face of orders. These orders are the orders that the soldiers had to follow, had to adhere to by the higher authorities. It also deals with the depiction of the soldiers' courage despite disastrous commands. They have to, take a decision on spot, and no matter what, they are supposed to blindly follow the commands and dictates of the military. And another aspect that this poem deals with includes the role of obedience in military contexts. Now, yet another aspect of war poetry is the trenches, the trench warfare. Trench is basically a narrow passage which is dug up, a kind of a deep hole which is dug up in the ground where the soldiers used to take shelter to protect themselves from the enemies. So Siegfried Sassoon went on to write a poem about this experience called Suicide in the Trenches, and this poem deals with the emotional impact of war on the mental health of the soldiers. And at the same time, you will see that the poem has tried to show two aspects, that is the idealized view of war versus the reality faced by soldiers. We might all think that war is something that brings a lot of glory and it is associated with bravery and courage, but that is just an idealized picture that we all have in our mind. Apart from that, the reality is starkly in contrast to it, because there is a lot of bloodshed, a lot of enmity, a lot of ill feelings, bitterness, which we cannot even imagine. And the poem very beautifully captures this raw sentiments of war. So ultimately, why is war poetry so important, or it is one of the most sought after topics in English literature? First of all, it gives us a deep and thorough understanding of the events of history, something that we may not find even in the textbooks. By reading poems from different time periods, we can see how each person's attitude towards war has changed over time. Apart from this, we see that war poems are actually a record of the personal experiences of the soldiers as well as the civilians. Another important angle that we can consider war poetry important from is memorialization. Now, memorialization means when war poetry honors the memory of soldiers who have died in wars. It reminds us of their sacrifices and helps us to remember them. Apart from that, it also has a deep emotional impact, and it is also a critique of war. Now, when I say critique of war, it means that many war poems question the reasons why these wars occurred and the effect it had on people and societies. The poems make us think about whether war is actually necessary and if there are better ways of solving these problems. And lastly, the war poems help us to estimate and understand the impact it has on society, because war poetry can influence how people think about war and encourage discussions about peace, justice, and the value of human life. I hope you guys find this video helpful in your reading of the poem and your overall understanding of war poetry. I just thought it would be very important for you to have this little background knowledge before you can delve deeper into your reading of war poetry or reading Vikram Seth's poem, which is there in the ICSE syllabus. Do let me know how you like the video. I'll be waiting for your responses. Don't forget to hit the like button, share and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Aspiring Minds. Thank you.